hope that you are doing well today. So today I am going to be making part 2 of the Butcher Baker Robert Hansen's meal that I created from my little brain. The last episode was a baked good, because you know, Butcher Baker. So I did berry cobbler. So if you didn't see that, go check that out. It covers all of his early life and his crimes before he was a serial killer, because he committed like a ton of crimes, and you'll find out. Just watch that video. But today we are going to be talking about the butcher part, and I am going to be making a sauce Chasseur, which is a mushroom sauce with some venison. And I am super excited. It's also going to have some like fingerling potatoes that I smash and then we fry. It's going to be super fattening, super great. But before we get to that, I would like to mention that you always have a seat welcome at the Devious Sinners table. You just have to hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video and you like true crime and you like food, so why wouldn't you like this video? Make sure to hit that like button. It means the world to me and it always makes me smile. So let's get to cooking, guys, okay? Let's go. First things first, I want to tell you the inspiration behind this dish and why it relates to Robert Hansen. So I'm going to be doing a nice seared venison tenderloin made from doe meat that my father got back in Michigan. And the reason why I am using venison and doe is because he liked to hunt his victims, and he had a couple Jane Does under his belt, meaning that they were unidentified victims, which is really sad, but I thought that it kind of tied it together a little bit, as well as a sauce Chasseur to go on top of your lovely venison tenderloin and your pan-fried potatoes. So sauce Chasseur literally translates from French to a hunter sauce. So I think that makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you, but let's get into the facts about Robert Hansen and his serial killing, stuff. First things first, he was doing his killings between 1971 and 1983. So that's 12 years of a reign of terror in Anchorage, Alaska. He would lure sex workers in by bragging about owning a bakery, as well as owning his own plane. If you don't know about the history of Anchorage, Alaska at that time, there was a big boom in like the oil business, so a lot of men and a lot of people moved there, including women, and women found opportunity to make money off of these men. And some women actually were promised by these companies to have a plane ticket paid for, a place to stay, a club to work in. Sounds great, right? But not really. It ended up being kind of a scam, so these women would have to they would have to do tricks. If you don't know what tricks are, just look that up. Not like the tricks that are for kids, because it's a very adult subject. But because of these women kind of having to be forced into running tricks and, dancing and owing money to these companies, they wanted an opportunity to get out of that situation. And Robert Hansen was that little ray of light, at least to them, before they found out the monster that he was. He also had a stutter. I covered that in the last video, but I found out a new fact. He was actually left-handed when he was born, which is a sign of the devil in old school religion. So he was forced to move to writing with his right hand to be more pure, and that's when he started to develop his stutter, and that was one of the reasons why he felt so demasculated. Just a little fun fact I wanted to throw in there that I learned about his stutter. But now we are going on to his first victim, one of the Jane Does that I mentioned earlier, Uclana Annie. I apologize if I pronounced the names wrong. I'm trying my best. So the name was coined for her because she was finally found by the Uclana River on July 21st, 1980 during some road work. The body was never identified, and she was stabbed in the back and very badly eaten by animals and decomposed. There was a female officer on that site called Maxine Farrell, and she was able to identify that this woman's jewelry was that of a sex worker at the time. And we're going to get more into Maxine a little bit later, so remember Maxine's name. But on to our next victim. So in July of 1980, there was a topless dancer named Joanne Masana. So she had just moved to Anchorage about a week prior to meeting Robert Hansen. She was a very shy, very kind girl, as the person that rented her room had said. But she also, the person renting her room said that she was not very comfortable on stage when she was dancing at the Topless Club. And the first night that she actually went nude was the night that she met Robert Hansen. And when Robert Hansen saw her, he just kind of wanted to sink his filthy claws into her. He saw an opportunity with her. He talked about his Super Cub Piper plane and how he could fly her to his cabin that he goes hunting at. And she thought, oh my God, this is a great opportunity. I need to, put cuffs on this man in a way, cuff this man, because he could be my way out of this bad situation. So he flies her out to his cabin and then shows her, his meat shack. And that's what he called it, a meat shack. And immediately she started to kind of freak out because she thought, this is a really bad situation. He's sus. I need to get out of here. And as soon as she started freaking out, that's when Robert Hansen knew he needed to kill her, because she wasn't quoting him, a good girl, because to him, a good girl would let him do whatever he wanted, let him have that power, because he wanted to feel masculine. And because she rejected him, he had to kill her. So he tied her up and sexually assaulted her before he killed her. And what makes me really sad about Joanne is there was actually a plane flying around during this about 3 times. And Robert Hansen was very scared that this plane was going to land. And he was like, oh, darn, if this guy lands and catches me, I'm going to have to shoot him in the face. And this is on record, guys. I'm sugarcoating it without the cussing because, YouTube doesn't like the cussing. But, yeah. He was going to shoot the guy in the face. Obviously, the plane did not land. Robert actually said he waved to the guy. He was like, doing the whole we're both pilots. What's up, man? We're chill. I'm a good man. So the pilot was like, okay, broom, broom, bye. Flies off into the wind. And that was that. And Joanna was later found in July of 1980 in a gravel pit, very badly decomposed. When the woman that was renting Joanne the room found out, she was heartbroken. She knew something was up because she kind of knew that Hansen was the one who took her out on the date, but nothing was really ever said. Then came Sherry Morrow, Robert's next victim. Sherry Morrow was found in 1982, a year after going missing, by the Knik River, and a .223 caliber bullet was found when they were excavating, which is a very critical thing. So remember, .223 caliber bullet, because yeah, you guessed it, that's what Robert Hansen used. So Robert lured Sherry in to coming with him in a similar way that he lured Joanne. He was like, yo, I got my Cub Piper plane out on the Merrill Airfield. You want to come fly with me? Come on a date, maybe do some shenanigans. Also, I own a business. I own a bakery. So I'm a successful man and I can get you out of this place. So Sherry was like, absolutely, because like I said before, the living conditions for these women were not great and they were seeking an opportunity to get out of the bad situation they were in. Now, Sherry also put up a fight, from what I recollect from listening to the tapes of the interrogation of Robert Hansen, and he said that she was in his car and she really did not want to go, and that's when he was like, I'm gonna kill her. And when she was putting up a fight, he shot her right in the heart. So that was Sherry Morrow's end. But we have a new beginning with the possible victim, Sydney Paulson. She's the only girl who got away from Robert Hansen. On June 13th, 1983, he was going down 4th Avenue, which was the red light district in Anchorage, Alaska at the time, and he saw Paulson and was like, hey, I'll give you $200 if you come in my car and give me oral sex. Paulson was like, Sure. She came in. He pulled a gun on her. He said to not scream, to not do anything, and he drove her to his house. Brought her down to his little man cave den where he had all of his trophy hunts visually there, so Sydney took record of that. So Paulson, one of the things that is burned into her memory is the bearskin rug, because Robert decided to rape her on it for 4 hours. He sexually tortured her as well, and then before he took a nap, he tied her up to a pole in the middle of the room, and she was already handcuffed, so he was just doing overkill. He also wrapped a chain around her neck 4 times. When he woke up from his nap, he decided to take her to the, little airfield. So he tells her, when she gets in the car, you duck down, do not do anything. If you ask for help, I'm going to blow your bleeping brains out. Hansen then said, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just taking you to my cabin on a little trip because I want to get my money's worth. So Sydney knew that's not the case. She was going to die if she got in that plane with that man. So when he was loading up the Super Cub Piper plane, she saw an opportunity to run. So she opened the car door and bolted. Now, mind you, this woman's not wearing any shoes. She's badly bruised. She's handcuffed, and she's running down the road to try to flag somebody down. Thankfully, a trucker saw her and stopped. He drove her to a local nearby motel, and she ended up calling her boyfriend. The trucker, however, ended up calling the police and making a report. The police found Paulson, and Paulson agreed to go and do a report. So when she does her report, she is hysterical. Now, there's an officer that's there that's named Cook. He's the only one that believes her because, she's a sex worker, and police weren't taking her seriously. They kind of thought it was a bad trick. She wanted more money, and then she got hurt because of it. Cook, believing her story, asked her if she would agree to do a sexual assault kit. So she agreed, and on the way to getting the kit done, she saw Merrill Airfield and was able to point out the Super Cub Piper plane that Robert Hansen was going to put her in. She began to be hysteric. Cook was like, hey, can you run these plate numbers to the Merrill Airfield people when he called them up, and Robert Hansen's name came up. So they called up Robert Hansen and brought him in to interrogate him. He said that exactly what the police thought it was. She wanted more money. It was a trick gone wrong, and she was going to hurt him if he didn't give her more money. The police that were interrogating him was like, seems like a likely story. We knew she was a bad egg. She probably does drugs. Because guess what? His priest came in and was like, hey, he's a good man. I'm giving him an alibi. That girl does drugs. We all know that she does drugs. So they were not going to take Sydney Paulson seriously at all. So about 3 weeks later, case closed. Nothing resulted of it. Later on, Paula Golding, the next victim, was found. She was 17 years old, and she was shot with a, guess what, .223 caliber bullet, and she was found on the bank of the Connect River. This is when the police are like, oh damn, we have a serial killer on our hands. What are we gonna do about it? I'll tell you what they did about it. Remember Maxine Farrell from the very beginning where she was helping out with, identifying Buchanan Annie's jewelry as that of a sex worker? Well, she also knew about Joanne Messina being a topless dancer and also in the sex worker industry. So Maxine was like, I feel like we have a serial killer on our hands. So she started compiling all of the missing persons cases of sex workers that would match this serial killer's MO. She went forward right after Joanne, but guess what? They didn't take her seriously because she was one of the first female police officers in Anchorage, Alaska, and they were like, I think you're wrong and I think you're crazy. But, now that they're looking for a serial killer, they were like, give us all your files, and guess what? You're not going to be a part of the case. So all that happened. Wonderful, I know, right? So great. But they did contact John Douglas. I don't know if you know who John Douglas is. He's an FBI agent that helped create criminal profiling. If you haven't watched the Netflix series about him, Mindhunter, it's really good. I recommend it. But he was able to profile Robert Hansen to a T. He must have suffered from cystic acne when he was younger, rejection from women. He also possibly had a stutter, and he loved to hunt. I bet those police officers had a big old bell go off in their head because they knew exactly who they were talking about. Because, I don't know if you know this, Alaska doesn't have that much of a population back then, and of course they knew it had to be Robert Hansen. So, this is where things get kind of tricky, so they go to get a search warrant for his house. And then they give him a call because they want him to come down to the station. They set the stage. They have a big old book of all the history, because I know if you watched the last video, all of the history and crimes of Robert Hansen. They also have a map lining his house to where the sex workers work on 4th Avenue. And they have just a ton of stuff to kind of scare this man into confessing when he arrives to get interrogated. But like the scumbag he is, he just denied, even when they put the pictures of the women that he murdered right in his face. He was like, I used their services, but I did not kill them. Such a dirty liar he is. Because when they were interrogating him, guess what? Guess what, babies? The police were searching his house. They almost gave up, but then they went into the den. You know, the den that he took Sidney Paulson in? And it matched the description perfectly. So they knew they had to find something. Guess what they found? They found an aviation map in his headboard with X's that marked where the bodies were. And those X's matched four of the women that were murdered. And guess what else, honeys? When they looked in the attic, they found the gun that was used. And they also found hidden in the installation jewelry from all of the women, because not only did he collect trophies from his animal kills, he collected trophies from the women he killed. What a freaking crazy man. You know what's even crazier? Remember Uclana Annie? One of the officers that was actually on that case, Robert was like, when he was in the bakery getting donuts from Robert, he's like, where was the body found on the aviation map that he had? The X was already marked. If that's not a red flag, I don't even know what is. Because if it's already marked, man, like, he knew where the body was. Right when Robert thought that he really had them fooled during the interrogation, they brought in the map and they showed him. And that's when he turned pale. And that's when they said, that man didn't look like our, friendly neighborhood baker. He looked like serial killer Bob. Now, Bobby here is trying to still deny, but eventually, he's like, okay, you got me. So they were able to prove that he killed Sherry Morrow, Joanne Messina, Uclana Annie, and Paula Golding, and also that he raped and assaulted violently Sidney Paulson. Then Bobbert was like, okay, I need a plea deal. If I only get charged for these 4 murders and, the rape of Sidney Paulson, I'll agree to show you where all the other bodies are that you haven't found. Guess how many markings were on that map to where bodies were? There was 24 in total, but only 17 bodies were found. I know, that's really crazy. They couldn't find all of them, and that's very sad. And I feel very bad for all the women that were not found, that were unidentified, and their families do not know what happened to them. This is when justice is served, though, because on October 27th, 1983, Robert Hansen was sentenced to 461 years, no parole, and also a life sentence on top of that. So, good to know he was never going to be able to get out, because if you watch the first video, he got out of jail a couple times. Honestly, one of the most heartwarming things that I watched and read about was when the trial had adjourned and I don't know if I'm saying that right, when it was done, Cook, remember the officer who believed Sidney? There was a woman that ran up to him that he didn't recognize that hugged him so hard and said, thank you so much for giving me justice. And that woman, you guessed it, was Sidney Paulson. She got her life together and she got to live her life to the fullest, which honestly, out of anything that I've talked about in the story, that's one positive thing, that this woman got the justice she deserved. Last note on Robert Hansen is on August 21st, 2014. He died at the age of 75 due to natural causes in jail. Kind of sucks because it seems like the bad apples always live the longest, and we had a lot of good ones die very young in this true crime. So I'm going to leave you on that note. I hope that you really enjoyed what you heard and you enjoyed all the cooking that you saw. But let's get on to plating and the tasting. This is by far, I think, the prettiest dish that I've made on this channel, and I'm so excited to try it with you guys. Are you ready to try our very, very long amounts of effort together? Okay, let's go. I'm gonna try our little trumpeters. I really love with the lemon dip and a nice bit of acid. Okay, let's get our sauce and some venison, a little bit of the pickled mushroom. I'm gonna cut this venison in half because I actually want to enjoy the little bit that I have. I would kill for this dish. I literally, it was worth it. Everything was worth it. Like, it was worth all the effort. I can 100% back that. You know, not every recipe is going to be easy, and this one was a bit of a challenge, but I like to challenge myself because I want you to learn as much as possible while watching this channel, whether it be about true crime or cooking. And this is hands down a winner. I know I said that about the cobbler and everything else I've made, but like, why would I make bad food for you, you know? But this is just spectacular. I need a moment, and I will come back after I am done devouring this plate to say my goodbyes to you. Give me a minute. So I finally finished my dinner. It was absolutely spectacular, and it was completely worth all of that long process. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching all of that. I hope that you learned something. I think that I will link the recipes in the description. If not, I guess I'm gonna have to make a website and just type the recipes up there because I don't think this whole recipe can fit in the description box. But besides the point, I really, really, really appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart, and you are what motivates me to make better dishes, make more intense dishes, you know, really just doing this whole thing. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I'm almost to 50 subscribers, which doesn't seem like a lot, but to me it's a lot, and it means a lot. So if you liked what you saw and you liked what you learned, whether it be about true crime or the food, make sure to smash that subscribe button so that way you always have a seat at the Devious Dinners table where you will always be accepted and always be able to talk about the true crime, weird stuff, and food that you like. And make sure to hit that like button if you liked anything that you learned throughout this video. I really appreciate you all so much, and I hope that you have a killer day. Bye!